Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for our weekly Facebook Live support event. I'm Coach Rick, and I'm here with longtime health coach and friend Nancy Damzik. Hi Nance.
Hi, hello everyone out there.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Always appreciate your time so much. By the way, if you're watching live, let us know by posting so that we can say hi to you. We're going to wait a little while for more people to join, and then we'll take a break and just quickly talk about who has joined the call. So thanks for doing that. Appreciate that. Today, we're going to be revisiting the National Weight Control Registry. We talked about this last week, which is, in research, the most successful and very large group of weight loss maintainers. So there's a lot to learn there from the National Weight Control Registry. We talked about a lot of different things that these people had in common that we might want to steal from them, see if you're doing those things. But we really lasered in on the whole idea of consistency, because that was one of 6 things that they reported, a consistency in their diet pattern. So that was kind of the focus last week. And today we're going to build on that. We're going to go a little bit deeper and talk about not just consistency broadly, and the example they give in the registry is having your weekdays and weekends look more similar than different. We know how hard the weekends can be. Here, we're going to focus more on the consistency within the day. I think we all know that there are some times of the day that are just simply harder than others. So that's what we're going to talk about. And we did a poll, right, Nancy? We threw a poll out there for people. We were thrilled with the responses. A couple of surprises in there for me.
Over 100 responses.
Over 100 responses. Fantastic. So basically, I'll just, as means of preview here, we'll come back to this, but we asked of these different times of the day, which is your most challenging? Is it the hectic morning hours? Nancy, you and I laughed at this picture. You've got the sun going one way, running.
Yeah, I love this.
The daughter's...
If we had kids.
I love the daughter. She's asleep on the couch. The mother's just trying to get everything going. And I think the father's like 15 minutes behind. He had made breakfast. He's still trying to get them to eat the breakfast that none of them were going to eat. Okay, so that was the first time period. And then we had the afternoon energy dip. I mean, who doesn't relate to this one? I mean, we all had that experience at some point. Then we have the family dinner. I love this picture. Who would have ever known, Nance, that the cast of Saturday Night Live back in the day would have family dinner together like this? It looks to me like the woman on the right is trying to be in the box and everyone's very irritated about it. So, is it the family dinner? Or, last category, a late entry to the categories, is it the nighttime munchies? So, what say you? Which of those 4 categories is most challenging? We'll get to that in a moment. But whatever your most challenging time of day is, the fact is there are always problems that we're going to face. All of us, all the time, right? They're never going to go away. So it's almost like a fork in the road, Nance, that people don't realize. You can either give up because the problems seem insurmountable, or you can hang in there and you can look at the problem and say, is there something to do here? Get ideas. That's why we have this diet community page. And then try different things and see what might work for you. And how many times have we talked about this, Nancy? More often than not, there are solutions to problems that might have stopped you if you had said, that's it, I'm done. You keep a problem-solving mindset, and you can solve a whole lot more problems than you ever might have imagined, especially with the support of other people and accountability and whatnot. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's sort of the thrust.
I think I've always felt that way. There's always a solution if you can look for it. And it's incredible, some stories that people have told where they've traveled for a week and stayed in the box, and everything they did to be able to do that or problem solve through a situation. So again, it's there is a solution if you're willing to go for it.
Yeah. Nancy, I'll quote you. You've worked with me on my health habits for 30 years now. I'll quote you. Rick, there's always a next step. It may not be that obvious, but there's always a next step to take. And that just resonates with me. So I just sort of trust it in terms of like when you coach me to do things, that there is a next step. So help me find it. So that's sort of the thrust of it here. All right, let's take a second here and just see who's joining us. I don't know if you've had a
Yeah,
chance
we've got
to.
a lot of people joining. It's great to see. We've got some of our regulars are here, as well as other people. Jennifer's here. She's here every week. We've got
Jennifer.
Rosemary. We've got Susan. We've got Kate. We've got Mary. Lydia's here again. Renee.
Nice.
Sue. Sharon, we really nice. Sherry, Sherry's back. I just wondered where you were last week, Sherry. Now I know you were at Passover, so nice to have you back in. We got Mary here, Shane, Rex, lots of people joining, so it's great to see everybody.
It's great. Wow, Nancy, we're at a point where we have regulars.
We do. We have regulars.
I feel like I need to sit up a little taller here. We have regulars. Thank you guys for being regulars. That's fantastic. It really drives the conversation. I mean, Nancy and I alone, there are limitations there. So thank you for being here.
Totally.
All right. So last week, I'm going to move to the next point. We had ended the call where, again, we were talking, we pulled out of the National Weight Control Registry participants the behavior of being consistent throughout the week. And Nance, I think just sort of charitably, we sort of broaden that to just being more consistent, practicing healthy behaviors and healthy routines. Mm-hmm. And we were blown away by how many people on the event last week shared what they were committing to doing. So Nance, mm-hmm. you took the time to collate what people said they were going to do and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think the point we made last week is probably bears repeating. If you did it,
yes,
fantastic. Yes. Now you're in the driver's seat to say, was that useful? Should I do it again? If you didn't do it, what was the point we made last week, Nance, about that?
Well, there's often something to learn from that. Sometimes you learn more from not doing it than if you do it. And it's typically, well, either something happened that you had no clue was going to happen and you didn't anticipate it, or there was just some part of your plan that was missing. And a lot of times in retrospect, when you think about it and think, well, what could I have done differently, you often figure that out, and then you're ready to try it again another week. So it's really a great learning opportunity, even if you don't end up doing it.
Yep, and Nance, just to put a finer point on it, for me, many times there will be something that I'm going to do this, and then the week goes by and I didn't do it. It might be as simple as I didn't write it down or I didn't put it in my calendar. It could be as simple mm-hmm. as that, because you just had the best of intentions, but the week did what the week does and you didn't do it.
It flies by and you either forget about it or you forget to plan it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we want to, several of you took on what we're calling the accountability spotlight. You didn't just say to yourself you're going to do it, which is better than not saying it. You didn't just document it, which is better than just saying it. You actually went to that higher level of saying to the community here. That's a whole nother level of accountability. Mm-hmm. And you said, I'm going to do it to all of us. And again, if you did it, great. If you didn't, what did you learn? It's productive either way. So, Nance, who said what? What were people going to take on this?
I really love this section, and I really appreciate people taking this on. So, Rick, we had 18 people. 18 posts of awesome. Goals that people wanted to do, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Yes.
We had 8 that were focusing on shakes. We had 2 focusing on vegetables and fruits, 5 on PA, and 3 on record keeping. So just real quickly, I know some of you are here, so I'm going to just call off some of the goals people had, and would love to have you comment mm-hmm. for anybody that is willing to do that took something on. So as it related to the shakes, we had Jody, who wanted to make a big healthy breakfast, which again, from our conversation, I assume was a meal replacement veggie fruit combination.
Starting the day strong. Keep going.
Nancy was taking on a shake before dinner to help her be full going into dinner. And then we had a number of people who wanted to do something after dinner. So we had Pam, Tiffany, and Kate shake after dinner. We had Arlene, who was specific to make a decaf coffee shake. We had Patricia, who was taking on a 70-plus pudding frozen, which was different. And Mary wanted to try a new dessert recipe. So a lot of goals there. And then around fruits and vegetables, Patricia wanted to do the all-important prep veggie fruits ahead of time. That one's a really great strategy. And then Rebecca, this was interesting. She wanted to mix her vegetables with her meals instead of eating them on the side. And Rick, you and I are both in the casserole.
Casserole people
love
versus
the
on the
casserole.
side. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, huge, big bowl of something. So Rebecca, that's music to our ears. Physical activity was a big one, as I mentioned. Lydia, who's here, I know. I love this accountability. She said, I'm going to call a friend to tell her I'm going for my exercise, and then I'm going to call her after I do it. Boy, that's really strong. Tiffany and Suzanne both wanted to do 2 bouts every day, and Kathy and Mary wanted to do 1 bout a day, or at least 1 bout a day. And then record keeping, Sandy and Shane were going for 7 days of records, and Melissa wanted to track her water. So, lots of goals. Anyone want to comment on accomplishing any of these?
Yeah, so did any of you, that was quite a list, Nancy, and very detailed,
so.
very specific, lots of good intentions. So how you turn good intentions into actual actions, it's a process. A big part of that process is being accountable, because if we're just accountable to ourselves, me, Nancy, you, humans, any human, you will find a way out to not be accountable if it's just to yourself. So that's kind of what the mode and the purpose of this accountability spotlight is, holding you to a higher standard if you choose to take it. So did any of you do?
Oh, yes, we're starting to get, and Shane, I want to, Shane's a great example of our, sometimes you can't get something done and you learn and you do it again. So Shane uploaded the app and tracked all week. And last week, he had said he was going to do that, and he wasn't able to get it done. So great job, Shane, and getting that done. And then Arlene didn't have the decaf coffee, but she had fruity shakes and Torani shakes, and so far she's been in the box. And I love that, Arlene, because I remember we particularly wanted to help you with nighttime strategies. So obviously they helped. So we can all be thankful that our support to Arlene made a big difference for her this week.
Great, Arlene. Awesome. Really good.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so
share?
If anyone else, feel free to post it. The one thing that occurs to me, Nance, take 30 seconds on this. There's this concept, it's sort of an advanced way of thinking about the plans you make and what actually happens and then how you assess that. It's a term that we use in the program called practical flexibility. If you said that you were going to do a shake with strawberries and blueberries at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon came and you said to yourself, I'm not in the mood for that, but you know what, I kind of want something savory, let me do an HMR entree with 2 cups of veggies. Let's not get caught up on like the precise specifics of what you committed to. It's more like, what's the gestalt? You're trying to stay on track with healthy routines, right, Nance?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And I love what Arlene did. She didn't do the decaf coffee, but she found a couple of other things she did. It's just, the goal is to do whatever it takes to stay in the box. And, sometimes you don't feel like what you originally thought, so it's perfect.
Stay in the box.
Now,
if you're in phase, hold on, Nance, if you're in phase 1, the goal is to stay in the box. If it's in phase 2, obviously it's looser, there's more variety to stay on track. Sorry, Nance. Go ahead.
To support calorie management. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes, I should have been distinguishing there. So, Kate, I love, she was taking this by the rules. This is similar to what you just said. Well, I wasn't successful in making a shake after dinner. However, she made an adjustment, and she made the shake with dinner and then drank it afterwards. So that's perfect. Get it done while she's already preparing meals, and then she has it already for afterward, and that worked really well.
So Arlene and Kate, what was the word? What was the phrase? The concept? Practical flexibility. The idea is you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If your plan didn't go exactly as you planned, that's okay. What's the gist of your plan? It's to basically stay on track. Did you make a healthy choice anyway? And that's really what we're going for here, because life happens. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Yes.
And by the way, Nance, feel free, if more people join, if there's something, just interrupt me.
Well, I just want to add just one more, because it's a physical activity, but her goal is to increase her PA, and she did do a free jazzercise on Facebook, and she got over 2,000 this week, so that's great.
Sharon, that's my Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Sharon's in my group, Nance. Hi, Sharon.
All right.
Nice to see you. You said you were going to be on here, and you did it. Very nice. I'm glad you're here. Awesome. Very cool. All right, let's now transition. So we did the accountability spotlight. We'll come back to it at the very end. If you hear something through the conversation that we're about to have that you want to do, and if you want to put your commitment on steroids, take on the accountability spotlight. Don't just say it to yourself. Don't just document it. Both important. Go to that next level. Start playing chess, not checkers, with your plans. Take on the accountability spotlight. Okay, let's transition now, Nancy. We're going to come back to the National Weight Control Registry. We're angling at what is your most challenging time of day where you're faced with temptation or where you struggle the most. We put out a poll for that. Why we're talking about this is because we talked about consistency being a very important part of you being successful long term, not just in losing the weight, but keeping it off through the years. Consistency is really important. So do your weeks look like your weekends? They don't have to be exactly the same, but the successful things from the typically more structured weekdays makes sense to bring some of those into the less structured weekends. That's the main point from the registry. But here we're narrowing it down. Nance, do you mind if we just sort of skip the from the registry? There were 6 different things.
No. I think we need to move on to what.
Yeah. So there were 6 different things. Watch last week's episode, and we went into all of those. We were just focusing on this whole consistent eating pattern, and now we want to put a sort of a fine tooth on it, which is looking at it as within the day. Some parts of your day are harder than others. It's the case for everybody. So we put a poll out. What is your most challenging time of day? Again, is it the hectic morning hours? Is it the afternoon energy dip? Is it the family dinner with all of those challenges? Or is it the nighttime munchies? All right, Nance, you ready for the drum roll here?
I am.
Here's the results. You may have already seen this, but wow, I have to be honest. There were some surprises in this for me, Nancy. Number 1, look at this, more than 2/3. The nighttime munchies is where most people who responded say that that's their toughest time. The afternoon energy dip was number 2, followed far distant by the family dinner, and then almost, I think, only 1 or 2 people. Is that right on the hectic morning hours, Nance?
Actually, we didn't. I think there was one comment about the hectic morning, but there were no votes for it, so it was very small.
So it was worthy of just a comment. Okay, all right, no problem.
So Rick, you said it surprised you. What surprised you about it?
Well, all right. First of all, when I go to sleep, I have a huge dinner, and then I go to sleep, and I'm really full, and I have a lot of strategies that support that, and I'm pretty clear. I don't tend to dive into the gap and the unsupportive tempting foods that much at night. Might happen a little earlier in the evening, Nance, but not at night. I'm very structured in the evening. What the bigger surprise though for me was that the family dinner basically was not an issue. That was a shocker for me. How about you? Were there any surprises for you here?
I honestly, no, it wasn't. I've taken this poll in my own classes many times when we focused on this, and always the 2 most popular times, the hardest times, are the afternoon and the nighttime. Yep. Always, that's what we end up focusing on. So I'm not surprised at all that those were the 2 big ones here.
Great. So I'm seeing.
But it's interesting. We're getting a couple of comments here even about, well, I didn't know which one to choose, the nighttime or the afternoon. So that, it was kind of a toss-up. Yeah. So I think as we're going through this, Rick, and we're having people talk about strategies they use for those 2 times, I think easily they can be interchangeable.
Yeah, I was just going to say that
right?
point. Yeah. And the broader point we made at the beginning was that people face problems and they get stopped. That's the norm. But we're up to something different here, which is, there's a problem. There might be a solution. So let me become a problem solver. That's kind of the whole tenor of what we're going for here. Mm-hmm. You can solve more problems than you think with the support of different ideas, different experience, again, accountability and whatnot. So but your point is a good one, Nancy. If something that really works in the evening, it might be generalizable to the afternoon energy dip.
Right.
Possibly. So what I'd like to do now, I'd love to cover all of them, but we only have time to cover the big one here, which is the nighttime munchies. And we're going to do a deep dive here. We only have 10 minutes left, Nance. I would say 70% of that should be spent on strategies.
Yes.
Actions, how-tos, solutions. That's what we want to spend our time on here. And if you, as you're watching, even if you're not live here, you might be watching this like many people are on as a recording after the fact. I would suggest there's two filters to have. One is, well, what works for you? Share it with us here. And if you're watching it after the fact, make sure those strategies aren't falling out for you. But secondly, this is so important, borrow ideas from other people. You've got to take advantage of the community that we have here with so much experience in solving these problems. So share, please. We're going to ask you in a moment.
Let's get started.
Yep. How do you deal with the nighttime munchies? And take a minute. Write down at least one thing that you do that successfully helps you get past that hump. We call it the urge curve, where it seems to just get harder and harder, but you come up with a solution, and all of a sudden you flatten the peak on that urge curve. So
yeah, how do you get to bed without consuming more calories than you wished you had?
That's what it's all about. So what's a successful strategy that works for you? I am seeing the posts, Nancy, so that's great. What is something that has worked for you? This is, in theory, we're talking about after dinner, right, Nance? I mean, that's pretty much, those hours can be, I know for me, Nance, I don't have to put the kids on the bus. I can sleep later, so I can stay up later. So those nighttime hours they're extended, which is challenging.
Right. And it's all of a sudden you're starting to look for things. Andrew said, I just go to bed, which is another solution, which can be hard.
Hey, you know what, Nancy? That you say that with laughter, but honestly, I bet you there are a lot of people. I know myself. It's like, well, let me throw in one more episode of whatever I'm watching because I don't have to get up early. And guess what? Next thing I know, I'm dealing with like, hey, maybe I should get something to eat. An hour past when I might normally have done it isolation period here. Yeah.
All right, I've got a few things I want to. So Susan says she drinks an extra shake, has herbal tea, gum. That certainly prevents eating, and then she goes upstairs to stay out of the kitchen. That can certainly help a lot. Joanne drinks a ton of water. Stacy does PA during the time I have my nightly urge, and I bet it goes away after she does that. That's a great strategy.
It tends to do.
Rosemary loves Facebook on here. She loves all the ideas we're getting. Jennifer, I normally turn to making a pudding. I've also done no big cookies if it's really bad. Shane, have something healthy to grab, like apple with PB2, so something that's absolutely planned to eat.
Yeah, we want Nancy, we want specifics here, so I'm so glad Shane added that.
Yeah,
let's just not the gist, but like paint the picture here. What do you do specifically? People need details.
And then Lydia says she does activities, makes puzzles, crochets, right? Lori, after dinner, I have a shake for a snack, and then instead of staying up late like I used to, I go to bed early around 10, which makes me not snack and get a better night's sleep. Yeah. So a win-win for you. But notice again, she has a shake. It's not like she's trying to white knuckle it. She has a shake.
Yeah.
Oh, Sherry said she's finally, this has been hard for her, but she's finally found something that works. I have mousses for breakfast and then have an entree with 3 vegetables at 4, another entree with 3 vegetables at 6:30, then a mousse with HMR, whoops, I lost it here, granola at 8:30. That seems to do it, at least for the last 3 days. Oh, I love that. Rick, that was one of the things that I was mentioning. I often think about that works for me, but I also ask other people, if you're really struggling at night, my question is, are you having enough dinner, right?
Oh, my God.
If you're having the, whatever you're thinking you should have, which, whatever it is, the 2 vegetables, and whether it's an entree in phase 1 or, maybe a protein and grain in phase 2, whatever you're having, if you're not full enough, it's so easy to be like searching for something, an hour or 2 later. So that would be one of my biggest recommendations.
Nancy, you and I have talked about this 1,000 times. This is what you and I have in common. You and I are volume eaters, and we like to have big dinners. Of course, there's this cultural bias that, well, you really shouldn't eat that much before the... Forget it. The foods that we're talking about are so low in calories.
Lots of vegetables.
Yeah, and like if you're shortchanging yourself on the volume at dinner, you could be sabotaging your resolve 90 minutes later or 2 hours later because you didn't give yourself some permission. You're never going to have any problems by eating too much broccoli or anything from in the box or any of these healthy strategies. I find that that's part of the things that fortifies me, Nance. I mentioned it earlier.
Yes.
At the big dinner, and then I have a big savory dinner. Most people's dinners are savory. So the human palate likes savory and sweet. And when you put them both together, you get a different level of satisfaction. So your dinner is probably savory. Eat a lot of savory. And then that leaves a smaller gap for you around what you fill in with the sweet. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is. I love the pudding. I do the pudding myself. Nancy, feel free to share anything that you do in the afternoon.
Yeah, well, I think, but I love this. I think, if you have, first thing to do, add at least 2 or 3 more vegetables with your dinner, or fruits and vegetables, and then many people here are talking about having the planned treat. We've got the chocolate shake.
Yes.
Or one shake with chicken crackers, but the planned Shane with the apple and the PB2, and you said with the pudding. That's one of my favorites. Or sometimes if I'm really hungry, I'll have a big cereal and fruit. I love that at night. Or sometimes I want something warm. I'll cut up a piece of fruit like an apple or some peaches, and I'll warm them up with some cinnamon, and then put a 70-plus pudding on that, and that's like a nice treat. And it does, if you're not in phase 1, it doesn't have to be, right, a food or meal replacement. There are some other, snacks and desserts that you can find that are in a decent calorie range. But, obviously for phase 1, that's not really an option.
Yeah. So
I just want to mention Jennifer too. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you one more time.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Because Jennifer's saying my issue is waking up and wanting something to nibble, and I've heard that before. You really getting up even after you've gone to bed. So she prepares something.
Nancy, you're breaking up a little bit.
Nancy, put it in the fridge so that if she does get up, she already has something made ready to go and grabs that. That's so smart.
Nancy, for some reason,
got a hot drink here, hot chocolate mocha. That's a great amount of people that want that. Oh, I love this one. I have an entree or meat protein with 3+ servings.
Forgive us.
Then I make a chocolate pudding and put banana slices in it. Pop it in the freezer. So really hearing, again, a lot of planned eating. And the last thing I want to say, similar to this, is perfect. We have a saying in HMR, is that you want to be able to be in control of what you're eating. Right, Rick? How does that make you feel when you're in control? Yeah,
Nance, I'll just tell you, you went into the max headroom sort of space there with your audio. You were you sounded a little mechanical there. I kept you going because I think we could all still, hopefully everyone, you could still hear her. I think it was legible. I think we could hear you, but we'll have to double check to see if that's going to work for the rest of the discussion here. But so the point that Nancy just made is an absolutely huge one. Obviously, we're brainstorming and strategizing low-calorie recipes because the calories matter, right? They're the bottom line. But Nancy, you just brought up this other point, which is when you have a successful strategy that you can employ during this most challenging time, there's also an emotional thing that happens here. You feel more in control. Did you hear Nancy mention that? You feel more in charge of your food choices. And we've made this point before a few weeks ago. I mean, it's one thing people like is they like to feel in control. And if there's one thing people don't like is to feel out of control. So it matters how you feel about this. So it's kind of like an additional reason that we don't talk about enough probably, to figure out a couple of strategies that maybe you haven't been practicing or that you could bring back from the past that worked for you, because the calorie management will be better and there's your weight, but almost more importantly, how you feel about it emotionally that, and that's even bigger. I mean, you feel like, hey, I'm feeling successful right now. So all of those are really important points. Nancy, let me just do a quick double check here. You know what? I think I might have. Let me just see. Nancy, you there? Huh. All right. I might have to bring this to its conclusion without my dear co-host. I'll just try it one more time. Forgive me, guys. There it is. Bose SoundLink. And let me just call her back. Forgive me. This will take 20 seconds. Nancy, you're at the top of my speed dial, number 1. I'm not sure what that means in my life, but...
Hello?
There you go. Hey, you're back. You're back and you're clear. Thanks for not abandoning me.
Well, I hung up, but I didn't, because I didn't know if I was impacting the sound.
No, you're good. You're good. So we are nearing the end here, but we brainstormed a lot of different strategies. Again, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I think in some ways, I'll just say it one more time, one of the main points here is we will run into problems, whether it's the nighttime munchies or whether it's the afternoon energy dip. Part of managing weight will rest on you being a problem solver, not being stopped by problems, but rather saying, okay, pause, it's a problem, let's just see if there are some solutions here. That's kind of that's the fork in the road for a lot of people, because it's just so easy to get swept away when you run into an obstacle or a challenge. And we all know what that's like. Oh, forget it. This is just so hard. But your long-term success really rests on you developing a little bit of resilience around, oh, another problem, and let me see what I can do to maybe solve this problem. So that's really what we've been doing here, Nance. I don't know if we want to, in our final time, let me just put up the old accountability spotlight.
Yes, while you're doing that, Rick.
Yeah, speak loud, just because you're a little softer for some reason. Go ahead.
Really quickly to Andrea.
Go ahead.
Andrea, is saying, well, what do you do if you've already eaten all your calories and you're still hungry and have the munchies? And I think you and I would both say the same thing together, which is more is better.
Yeah. There's this idea that, well, my budget is my budget and I can't exceed my budget, but the flaw in that thinking is that I will not eat anything else for the rest of the challenging time. And that's usually not the case. An extra shake, an extra fruit, an extra vegetable, an extra entree, anything like that, or if you're in phase 2, whatever other successful phase 2 strategies you have that have fewer calories, you want to look at those as producing ultimately calorie savings. You invest a few extra calories, Andrea, in the extra shake, 120 calories, let's just say that. If that prevents you from eating from 5 minutes with Oreos, you might have just saved 400 or 500 calories. For some people, you might have just saved 1,000 calories. So you don't want to play that game of, like, I have a calorie budget and that's it. You want to look more at the beginning of the chain and give yourself some freedom around the foods that have so few calories that the calories most of the days are going to add up very, very much less than you'll be filled up. You'll be filled up sooner than the calories will add up.
Yeah.
So speak up, Nance, just because for some reason your volume's a little low as we're wrapping up here.
All right.
Let's move into the final point here. Is there anything that anyone wants to take on? Again, what was the point? You want to look at, is there something that you want to try here and use this forum that we've created to hold yourself to a higher level of accountability? Did you hear anything from what people shared, from what Nancy and I discussed, that might support you to maybe get past those witching hours in the later evening and allow you to not have more calories than you anticipated or that you wanted? So let's just give it a minute here and see if anyone has anything to commit to, Nance.
Absolutely.
And Jennifer's reinforcing. Jennifer's a fellow coach in the program from all of her.
One of our coaches.
Yeah, reinforcing that main point. Give yourself permission to eat more of the low-calorie stuff because it's basically insulating you from eating way more of the high-calorie stuff, though you may not realize it in the moment.
Andrea's thanking us, so I'm glad that I'm glad you said that, and we were able to give you some perspective there.
Great, excellent. Excellent.
All right.
All right. I think that we want to preserve our commitment to keep these shorter, Nance. You want to move into wrapping this up?
I think we do.
Cool. All right. So, guys, we're at 5 weeks now going where we're providing these live support events. Our goal basically is to help you stay on track, but again, bringing back the kind of the theme that has emerged from the discussion tonight to help you keep tackling the challenges that will continually arise. I mean, there's never going to be a life without challenges. So you have to get better at how you approach the challenges, and that's really what we've been talking about here. And when those problems come up, it's really easy to give up. But there's always a next step, just to quote you, Nancy. And I will just say, Nance, just an acknowledgement of those of you who are now our regulars here on Thursday night. The fact that you're here, or you might be a regular watching after the fact, right, Nance? That is that clearly shows that you are doing the unusual thing. You are in the game. Most people give up the game when they're faced with those problems. So you're playing a different game here by just staying in the game. So continue to work hard on this. It's an exceptional level of accountability just by taking on that. Nance, I don't know if you want to throw out anything about future discussions here.
I want to, thank Rick. I just feel it's a privilege that we can do this with people every week, and that they come and they want to be here and they thank us. It's a real privilege to spend this time. I feel like I'm getting to know many more people in the HMR community, which is wonderful. I have to say, we had a big celebration today because we broke 2,000 people in the HMR community. And again, when you think about that number of people who are working on their health and their weight during this time, it's astounding. So it's fabulous. And now, since we are going to be doing these for the next few weeks, if any of you have something that you'd like us to talk about, let us know. And we'll see what we can do to deliver it. So we are open to suggestions, right, Rick?
That's exactly right. Let us know what you want us to cover on these events. We'll be happy to accommodate that. Thanks for your time, as always. Check in with the diet community. Again, there's an accountability and support structure there that's available to you. Do that during the week, and we really hope that we can see you here next week. Same time, same place. Thanks for being with us, everyone.
Bye, everybody.